Hurts, you could definitely throw in there. His end of the season doesn't necessarily go too well, but he did show talent, poise, leadership in getting to the college football playoff. But his struggles were apparent once he got to the playoff. Actually, pretty late in the season, Auburn, Florida, Washington, Clemson all kind of showed Hurts is very limited as a passer, and those defenses were pretty good in their own right. So once he started facing some pretty good defenses toward the end of the year, I think you could really see Jalen Hurts. You could see and tell that he was a freshman. So, but he set the single season rushing record for a quarterback for Alabama. Also had more than 3,700 total yards. So, and plus, you put up those type of stats for Bama. You're the Bama quarterback. You're going to get a lot of love. Of course, the supporting cast is there for him to break out at receiver and at running back. Of course, he doesn't have to do it by himself. But can he, with a new offensive coordinator, can he take the next step? I think they're bringing in a different pro style offensive coordinator and Brian DeBall from the Patriots may hurts a little bit. I don't necessarily think he's going to be lining up under center and be a drop back passer. So can DeBall come in and tailor the offense toward Hurts some more, kind of like a la Lane Kiffin did last year? Or is it going to be more of a pro style and actually Hurts? And maybe if all goes way south, is he even the quarterback for Alabama next year? So I think that's something to look forward to with Jalen Hurts there. You want me to keep going that list, Mark, or do you want to?
Yeah, we got Bo Scarbrough next, I believe.
Scarbrough, yeah, I didn't necessarily have him on my list. So he's an Alabama running back. Of course, he's going to have plenty of opportunities to step in and lead that. Can he be of course, the next Derrick Henry who took on the Heisman for Bama the years past, 2 years ago? So he'll have every opportunity. We saw what he did late in the season against Florida, Washington, and Clemson, and how his performance, especially against Washington, that was kind of his. I mean, SEC fans knew about him, but it was kind of his coming out national party, I guess you could say. But I think, probably top for me, if I had to go pick of an SEC Heisman guy, I'd go Derrius Guice from LSU. We saw what can happen with Leonard Fournette at LSU, how he was on the list every year. It's just going to continue with Guice now among the nation's top 31 rushers. Nobody carried the ball fewer times than Guice. So 183 carries for an SEC high, 1,387 yards. Just see what he can do as a full-time starter, and we'll go from there. So, I mean, Pro Football Focus had a really good stat on what he was doing. He was pretty dominant in the final 4 games of the year, where he averaged a missed tackle forced every 3.4 carries. So, and he had a great performance against Texas A&M last year, where he forced 16 missed tackles on 37 carries. So, he's got it all. He's a complete package. He's fast enough to break away runs. He's powerful enough to break some tackles. And I think for me, he's probably the leading guy going in for the SEC. But we can't forget about Nick Chubb. Coming off that knee injury going into last year, it took him a little while to get going. The offensive line for Georgia didn't do him any favors. But like Guice, toward the end of the year, he started coming on. You could tell Nick Chubb was getting the Nick Chubb of old back. So I think with Sony Michel coming back, Nick Chubb won't be asked to carry the load. But I think with Georgia's schedule, the teams they play, and Eason, if he can't necessarily take the next big step as a passer, they'll rely on Nick Chubb even more. So I think Nick Chubb is another guy you really have to look out for. And one more I'll throw is Christian Kirk from A&M, only because I don't necessarily see a wide receiver winning the Heisman, but the nation's best returner as well. One of the most versatile players in the country. He lines up inside, outside, returns kicks and punts. He'll even carry the ball out of the backfield sometimes. So, about 1,400 yards, all-purpose yards. Was 4th in the SEC and number 1 among non-running backs. But how does losing Trevor Knight affect him? And can Texas A&M beat the teams of note for the first time in Kevin Sumlin's career since Johnny Manziel has left? They fall apart in the late half of the year. So if they can get some big wins and find another quarterback, I think you can really look out for Christian Kirk to hit that Heisman ballot as well.
So, Dave, let me get this straight. So, Vegas right now, Bovada is saying Jalen Hurts at 12-1. They've got Bo Scarbrough at 15 or 20 to 1. Then they've got Kam Pettway. Those are the three leading candidates according to Bovada from the SEC. You're going Derrius Guice. Who was second?
Nick Chubb.
Nick Chubb. Christian Kirk.
Yep. Christian
That's
Kirk.
the reason I have you on here, Dave, is not to play it conservative and go with the stand pat hand.
Yeah,
it's to get out there and tell us what you think.
Yeah, I just don't see Hurts. The way he ended last year and the new offensive coordinator hire, I just don't see Jalen Hurts being able to take that next step. And I'm not saying he can't be a great quarterback for Alabama and lead them to another national championship game appearance or whatever. I just don't see him being able to take the next step to win a Heisman Trophy.
And what you said about Hurts, I think, is key in terms of the Heisman vote, is that if this was 20 or 25 years ago, I think him simply being the quarterback of what could be, not necessarily will be, but could be the number one team in the country throughout the season and just not making any stupid mistakes, just maintaining the undefeated record and being the quarterback would be enough. I think that the voting is a little bit more sophisticated these days. Fortunately, I still think that there are some issues out there with the voting, but in particular, I think that a guy doesn't get a pass for just playing on the best team and being in the quarterback position these days. So Jalen Hurts is going to have to make some plays, and as you mentioned, he's going to have to be a much more proficient passer here in 2016 or 2017 to reach lofty status of Heisman candidacy.